I should say Brad Smith now is going to be doing a very quick Q&A, so if you have any questions for him, whatever happened to Clippy from Microsoft Office, anything like that, just there to the left. Napster, Kazaa, LimeWire, BitTorrent, even YouTube. Wasn't the music industry supposed to be dead by now? Spotify's recent IPO, the success of musicians in the digital world, seems to suggest otherwise. So can we now say that the music industry will survive? To discuss this, please welcome to the stage Dia Sims of Combs Enterprises, Christopher Leacock, aka the Gillionaire of Major Lazer, and Wyclef Jean.
Hi, everybody. So I'm having a total like Wayne's World, we're not worthy moment.
We're gonna give you.
I don't know if you're having that too. Because I like grew up on the score and the carnival, bar none some of the best hip hop albums ever made, if you ask me. My first real big arena concert was Puff Daddy and the Family, right after Chris Wallace died. And then I think you, Chris, you and your friends at Major Lazer are making some of the most innovative, exciting sounds today.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you on tour whenever that chance presents itself. So we're going to talk about tech and how tech has been influencing the music industry. And we're going to start with the business aspect and then hopefully get on to some of the more exciting stuff about how it's affected the creative aspect. Too, look, I think if we were having this conversation right now, right after Napster, it would be a very different conversation. Instead, we're having it after Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Wyclef, how has digital streaming, how has music subscription, how has that changed the nature of the business as you see it?
Well, how's everybody doing, first of all? Cool. All right, so, I mean, for me, look, I was born in Haiti. I ain't come to America till I was 10 years old. I couldn't even speak English, right? So when I got to America, the idea of somebody gonna tell me, this is country music, this is reggae music, this is rock music, this is hip hop, I didn't understand what that meant. So proof of concept, when I did the album The Carnival, it's in English, it's in French, it's in Creole. Now my daughter that's 13 years old, she literally goes on Spotify, naturally will go from Major Lazer to P. Diddy to the Fugees to Ella Fitzgerald. I think that what we've noticed now is through technology, it really defies what we've been saying for years, because as musicians and as business people, we don't put barriers, and it's either good or it's bad. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
So at the end of the day, for us, it opened a complete avenue. You know, for me as an artist and someone who understands the idea of like what business is. So for example, so DJ Khaled does the song Wild Thoughts. My daughter who's 13 already knows that that's my song from the Carlos Santana version. How does she know that? Because she wasn't even born then. But somehow through Spotify, she's able to, once she like one artist, filter to all the catalog. And so for us, it's a very exciting time, you know?
Chris, it seems to me that the relationship that not only has tech sort of brought down the barriers between different musicians and different genre musicians, the ability to find new and old musicians, it has also changed the relationship between the musician and the customer. Do you feel, whether through the streaming services or social media, what is the current state of the relationship between artist and listener?
I think it's better now than it was ever before. You know, we went through an era of social media where the relationship between the consumer and the artist changed drastically from when we were growing up, because when I was growing up, you could buy a poster, you could buy a CD or cassette, or you could go to a concert. It was one way, like that, like there was no interaction. And then social media came around, and not only could you have access to more intimate details about, you know, what Clef had for lunch, but then you could also reach out to him, you know, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, send him a message, and now they might message you back, they might comment back on your picture on Instagram or whatever, and it might seem silly to some, but at the same time, it's a new form of communication. And these are the forms of communication that we use to find new talent, for instance. You understand? If I don't need to have Clef's number to send him a direct message on Instagram or so on, and just say, hey, like, love what you're doing, we should work on this thing, blah, 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 So, one, it affords us a new method of communication, and two, it affords us a new way of growing our reach, in that people already have scale on social media, they already have influence on social media, so now they can use that and they can actually monetize that. And the biggest thing is metrics, Before Spotify, for instance, we didn't have real-time metrics in terms of who's consuming our music and where they're consuming it, right? You might get that information 6 months later from the label, a year later from the label. But now you could go on your Spotify metrics page and you could see who is listening to my music where, and artists and management are now using those metrics to route tours and to schedule press appearances and to push radio and so on. So it's important for us to use the tools that we have available to us as musicians to figure out new ways to monetize and to figure out new ways to revive, conventional monetization techniques.
So Dia, on that point, let's talk about scale and monetization. You look at an artist like Puff Daddy, like Sean Combs, and you are looking at a man who is so much more than a musician. He has his foot in so many different businesses. He is in liquor. He is in television. Did tech open up a new avenue, a new runway for artists to go further and turn themselves into these full-fledged businesses with all of these different assets?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think, you started off talking about the aftermath of Napster, right? And the truth is, although the business of music may have had its ups and downs, the love for music really hasn't. It grows second by second, and all the research will back that up. Sean, Puff Daddy, Brother Love, Diddy Combs, often says that music is only second to religion in terms of how you can actually galvanize people, right? Having tech democratize that conversation between you as an artist and you as a brand has opened up the floodgates. When you think about how you built a brand in the 80s, and if you had the money to maybe, I don't know if you know in this audience, buy an ad on Family Ties and hope it worked, right? Well, now I can literally pressure test, do you guys like peach or mango better? And I can sit there and get results back that night and change my brand in real time.
Right.
So, when you tie that back to how does music help us in terms of building brands, I think the number one point that I would make is that, we're fighting for attention, right? As we all are, whether it wouldn't matter whether you're talking about selling pens or music, it's gone from an average of, 12 seconds down. The most latest thing I've seen is like 3 seconds. There's very few things that can capture someone's attention in 3 seconds, like music. So when we build content and have conversation with our consumers, whether it's about our television network or whether it's about Ciroc Vodka, the difference, the curation, the level of taste that we represent with the music in those first 3 seconds makes a difference whether they care about your brand or not.
So taken together, what I'm hearing from all three of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that initially when tech came into music, things looked like they were getting worse for artists. Now all of a sudden, things are getting a lot better, there's a lot more opportunity, there's a lot more scale. Is there anything about the sort of analog days of the music industry that you missed, that you think got lost? Wyclef was just telling me backstage, he produced the score in his basement in Jersey. That is crazy. That is some Steve Jobs level shit. That is awesome. Is there a sort of romance to the pre-tech era of music that we're missing?
Well, I would say for me, after my presidential run in Haiti, I got back. First thing I did was I went to Sweden to go see Avicii. I have a great relationship with Sweden. So literally, I felt like I wanted to go reprogram myself and relearn the times that I was off, what I was missing. So I show up in the studio, and of course, I'm a hardware guy, you know what I mean? So Tim shows up, you know what I mean? Everything now is through the plugins. And I have the real guitar, real time. I got the real bass, the real keyboard, real time. And we started working together. And I would say what was incredible was I was starting to learn now all of the plugins. And in like 4 months, I was mixing hardware with software. So I always say, moving forward, you know, as musicians, what's beautiful about it is the plugins allow you to move very fast, but at the same time, we still human. So the idea of touching a piano, feeling a piano, and moving it is still very important. And I saw that in Avicii, even with the Romance. No matter how great he was with the technology, he's like, yo, Clef, I want to learn how to play guitar. I want to learn how to play piano. So I always say the best of both worlds is really where it's at. But the tech makes it so much more easier. We don't got to cut tape no more. Everything is just so fast, man. It's like heaven come true.
Yeah.
You know?
Chris, you have thoughts on that?
Just to back that up, yeah, I think that there's two things for me. Like Clef was saying, one, regardless of your industry, you know, for us, we are creators, we work in music or whatever it is. The technology that's available to you, you should be using as a tool. It's to assist you. It's not to replace your innate ability, you know? We shouldn't allow our innate abilities to atrophy just because there's a new technology now. It's like, okay, cool, like, just because there's a guitar plugin doesn't mean you can play guitar. There's nothing that replaces the actual human ability to play the guitar, or learn to play the guitar, learn to play the piano, learn to take a picture, whatever it is, you know? So we have to use the technology that's available to us to help us, not to replace what ability we have. And the second thing that I really miss is the tangible aspect of certain things, you know? We've lost music to the cloud, we've lost books to the cloud, we've lost movies and TV to the cloud. And for me, you know, we old heads, well, except for this lovely young lady, but, you know, I remember, you know, going and buying a CD, going and buying a cassette, you know, reading the liner notes, you know, looking to see who produced what song they sample, you know, who wrote the drums on this, you know, all of this stuff that we still have that ability, because the great thing about the internet and the great thing about all this technology that we have now is that there's no more hiding, you know. If somebody, like, you know, like back in the day, if somebody had ripped off the Carlos Santana joint, there would be conversation behind the scene, but people wouldn't really know. But now that everything is available, now that information is available, people know, you know. So they know, well, okay, cool, like this is who wrote this song for Justin Bieber. This is who, you know, did a digital production on this record, et cetera, et cetera. So the information is available, but I still miss the physical, you know, the excitement of going and reading the liner notes, you know, and having a physical, you know, attachment to a creative product.
Right. So let's think about what comes next in music and the creative side of technology. My colleague at CNN, Laurie Siegel, was just in Tulsa with U2, and they're kicking off this tour that incorporates all sorts of new technology, AR, VR, rethinking where the stage is and what you can do with special effects. What's next in terms of this crossover between music and tech? Is the performative aspect of music going to head to a place that incorporates more augmented reality, virtual reality, uses the mobile phone as a sort of piece of the show?
I think when you look at the Gen Z data, it shows that this is the most visual generation we've had to date. Who, like, for me, when you think about the fact that they literally, you know, use visuals more than ever having talked on the phone, we do have to think about what's the next generation of entertainment, right? How is AR a critical part of performance? And then also, how is music consistently accompanying with visuals in a way that's stimulating and ever-changing? How the consumer can manipulate it, and then how the entertainers can make sure they're providing the right interpretation of their vision, both musically and with the visual accompaniment. So I think tech, there's obviously great things that are happening, but there's an opportunity for that to be more seamless in the consumer interface and on the musician side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, through AR, there was an app that I used through Shazam. And it was like just the idea of, you know, Wyclef breaks through the telephone, you know, and he's able to say, what's up, y'all, what's going on? As we move, like, towards the future, once again, like, for me, it's just, I mean, they call me a thug nerd, right? So it's really just the Jetsons. Like, at the end of the day, you can already tell as you go into the concerts You could already tell we moving towards the AR space. You could see we moving towards the VR. And I think moving forward, I mean, it's nothing different than when Pink Floyd was bringing out the lasers. It's just now, versus the lasers, they're going to be beaming us, you know, further than they doing with the hologram now, straight to our telephones. But it's, once again, it's very exciting. It's a reinvention. Again, I always think like what these things do, it constantly helps us and it pushes us to keep reinventing our art and our craft. Not just for us, but more for how are we going to be presenting our next artists. So it's Heads Music, all these young artists that I'm bringing to the forefront now, how are we going to use AR and VR as part of the scheme to bring it to people like my daughter?
So I could keep going on this conversation for an hour. We have like 2-3 minutes left. And I want to ask you a question that's really about the hip-hop industry, not necessarily about tech, but it seems to me, because I cover the field of innovation, and this seems to me to be an innovative decision for rewarding an innovative artist. How big of a deal was it to the three of you that Kendrick Lamar won the Pulitzer Prize? For the sake of the art, not for Kendrick, but for like the sake of hip-hop, for the sake of new music?
I think it's an interesting conversation around culture and where we're at right now. You know, in terms of acceptance of black culture and acceptance of hip hop, which is something that, you know, the three of us have been a part of innately. And I think that anything that allows people to continue to have a conversation around what is happening in their community or what is happening in their workplace or what is happening in their creative space is important. And it doesn't really come down to how you feel about it. It really comes down to the fact that we're willing to have a conversation about it. But at least that's how I feel.
And to the two of you, who right now is making the most innovative stuff in the field of music generally? Who excites you?
I mean, these two guys here are
Man,
doing-
Dylan.
Present company
Dylan. Yo, but you know what? Real talk, to the point of Kendrick, right?
Yes.
The Fugees' first album is called Blunted on Reality. I think it sold 2 copies. The man gave us money, and the album starts off with a poem to the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
Saying like, whatever you thought it was, those days are over. We're not going for that no more. So for me, I always respect the idea of when an artist can put themselves on the line. You know how hard that is, man?
Yeah.
Like when I decided I'm gonna run for president of Haiti, man, they was giving me a modern day lynching every day. You think I like that? I like holding the guitar and people screaming. But when you can sacrifice yourself, so for me, when I'm looking at Kendrick and there's things he's saying and there's the movement, it's once again, it inspires us because this comes from that hip hop culture. And that's, you know, Bad Boy, like, you know, that's like a 100-hour conversation, but it makes us excited to see like how our DNAs has affected everything. And to me, the most eclectic producer, I'm not just saying this, on the planet because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
The dude that I see that kills it, and I'm like, yo, I gotta just spend a little time with this dude. I ain't gonna say that. It's the guy with the funny hair. Right
That's
there. I don't know
fantastic.
how sonically he's doing this thing. He's doing like the most. It's almost like he's creating these frequencies. I don't get it, man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We are exactly out of time. Thank you guys so much. This was really
Thank you.
awesome. I hope it was good for you guys as well.
Sure.